A very good morning, students. Welcome to the science session. And today we are going to see the remaining part of the lesson 17, reproduction in plants and animals. And in the last session, we saw the reproduction in plants, and today we are going to continue with the lesson. And in this session, we are going to deal with the reproduction in human. Now, the concept that we are going to see today is about the male reproductive organ, that is the structure of testis, structure of ovary, and a very good morning, students. Welcome to the science session. And today we are going to see the remaining part of the lesson 17, reproduction in plants and animals. And in the last session we saw the reproduction in plants, and today we are going to continue with the lesson, and in this session we are going to deal with the reproduction in human. Now the concept that we are going to see today is about the male reproductive organ, that is the structure of testis, structure of ovary, and regarding the structure of human sperm and human ovum, menstrual cycle, fertilization and the fetus development, reproductive health, and the personal hygiene. Let's go into the session, children. Now, in 9th standard, we have learned about the male and the female reproductive system, isn't it, children? So, the male and the female reproductive organs in human beings differ anatomically as well as physiologically, and these involves the fusion of the gametes, that is, the reproduction involves the fusion of the gametes, and it is particularly the fusion of the two haploid cells. Haploid in the sense it consists of n number of chromosomes to form the diploid cells, that is, it consists of 2n number of chromosomes. Diploid individual in the sense the zygote will be formed from which the embryo develops. And if you see the organ for the reproductive system, it is divided into primary and secondary organs. Now look at the picture, children. Here you can see the primary organs, which is nothing but the testis in male and ovaries in female. Then there are accessory organs. In male it is vas deferens, epididymis, seminal vesicles, prostate gland, and penis. In case of female, it is the fallopian tubes, uterus, cervix, and the vagina. Now if you see the process of reproduction, you can see that these are the process. The first one is the process of ovulation, that is, ovum forms from the ovary. Next is fusion of the male and the female gametes, which is nothing but the fertilization. Now after the fertilized egg is formed, the division of the fertilized eggs takes place till the formation of the embryo. Then is the pregnancy, then the development of the fetus, that is the embryo inside the mother's womb. Next is the childbirth. So these are the process of fertilization. So before going into the process of reproduction, now we'll talk about the cells of the primary and the secondary reproductive organ in male and female and their role in reproduction. The first we are going to see is the male reproductive organ, that is the structure of testis. Now look at the picture, children. Here you can see the male reproductive organ, that is cross section of the human testis. Now the testis is nothing but the reproductive gland, which will be normally oval shaped organ. This is present outside the abdominal cavity in male, and it consists of a sacs like structure. It is placed inside a sac like structure, which is called as the scrotum. And if you see each testis, it is covered with a layer of the fibrous tissues, which is called as the tunica albuginea. Now each septum, this is called a septum. Now here you can see a pyramid like structures, isn't it? So these are called as septum. Now each septum will divide the testis into the lobes. Now these are the pyramidal lobes, isn't it? So these are called as the pyramidal lobes. And now inside it you can find an tube-like structure here, isn't it? So these are the seminiferous tubules, right? And inside the seminiferous tubules is the Sertoli cells and the Leydig cells, right? So these are the two cells that is present inside, and these are also called as the important cells which is take part in the reproduction process. Now here the process of the sperm formation takes place in this seminiferous tubules, right? Now this is how the this is where the sperms takes place. Now if you see the Sertoli cells, it is just the nutrition provider. It is just the supporting cell which provides the nutrition to the developing sperm, and Leydig cells is the cell which secretes the hormone which is called as testosterone, and it also initiate the process of the formation of the sperm. So this is about the female reproductive organ, that is the structure of the testis. Next is the female reproductive organ, that is structure of ovary. Here you can see the cross section of the human ovary. An ovary is located on either side of the abdomen, and you can see in two almond shaped bodies on either side. And if you see each ovary will have an outer cortex. It consists of an outer cortex and inner medulla, and the cortex consists of the connective tissues which is called as the stoma. And if you see the cells that it is made up of, it is made up of the lining, it is made up of the germinal epithelium cells, and this epithelial cells which is called as the granulosa cells, it surrounds the each ovum also. Now this is the ovum, isn't it? So it surrounds each ovum, and if you see the egg grows larger. Now here you can see the primary follicles. These are the growing follicles, and this is developing follicles, isn't it? So it matures. Now here you can see the matured follicles. So here this is the process of the egg that grows, isn't it? So as the egg grows, the follicles, what happens, it enlarges, and this is filled within fluid. Here you can see in fluid, isn't it? So blue plus dark liquid. So this is filled within fluid within follicle. So this is about the structure of the ovary. Next we'll see the process of the sperm formation. So the formation of the sperm in the male and the ovum in the female is called as the gametogenesis. So this is about the formation of the reproductive cell, isn't it? Now if you see the formation of the sperm, especially called as the spermatogenesis, and the formation of the ova, that is ovum, and the ovary is called as the oogenesis. And if you see the gametes will be in haploid cells, that is, it consists of n number of chromosomes, and it is formed using a process which is called as the gametogenesis. Now here you can see the structure of the human sperm. Now it consists of a head and a middle part, you can say, and a tail-like structure, isn't it? So if you see the sperm head, it is an elongated one, isn't it? And it consists of a nucleus also. The anterior portion, here you can see a cap-like structure, isn't it? So that is called as the acrosome, and this acrosome consists of an enzymes which is called as the hyaluronidase, and this enzymes helps the sperm to enter into the ovum during the fertilization process. Here you can see a short neck-like structure. So this is connects the head and the middle part. Now here this consists of the mitochondria because it needs energy, because the sperm is mobile, and for sperm mobility this mitochondria provides the energy, and this movement of the tail also takes place with the help of this energy. So the sperm moves. So the sperm mobility is essential for the fertilization. Next is the ovum. Now if you see the matured ovum, it will be spherical in shape. Here you can see that it is spherical in shape, and the ovum is almost free from the yolk, the inner part, and it consists of the cytoplasm, inside which you have an embedded cytoplasm, and also has a nucleus. And this ovum is surrounded by 3 layers. The plasma membrane is surrounded by an inner thin membrane which is called as the zona pellucida, and you have an outer thick membrane which is called as the coronary radiata. This coronary radiata is formed of the follicle cells, the follicle cells that we have heard about, isn't it? Now these are the follicle cells. Now here you can see in fiber-like structure, isn't it? Now here inside which you can see in round structure, round cell, so which is called as the follicle cells. And if you see the membrane forming the surface layer, and this membrane which forms the surface layer, that is outermost layer, is called as the vitelline membrane. And there is a liquid that is placed between this zona pellucida and the surface of the egg, which is called as the pre-vitelline surface, right? So before it starts with the cytoplasm, and this liquid is filled between these two layers. So this is about the structure of ovum. You see, the reproductive system in male and the female, it becomes functional only in a particular period. So it becomes functional, and increase of this hormone production will result in an stage which is called as the puberty, the stage which starts earlier in the female than in the males. Generally, if you see, the boys will attend the puberty at the age of 13 to 14 years, while if you see the girls, it is between 11 to 13 years. And these hormones start secreting once they attain the puberty period. And the secretion of both the male and the female hormones, it is controlled by the pituitary gland. Now we said that there is an numerous glands that is present in the pituitary, isn't it? And this is especially the gonads luteinizing hormones, that is LH, you can say. So this controls the secretion of the hormones that is present in male and female, and is also a special hormone which is called as the follicle stimulating hormones. So this also comes under the pituitary gland. Now if you see the menstrual cycle, this is the first stage of the reproduction process, that is the formation of the ovulation, we said. Now we'll talk about the menstrual cycle and the events that takes place in the menstrual cycle. See, the menstrual cycle, there is a cycle, that is cyclic events takes place. And if you see in human females, the menstrual cycle starts at the age of 11, or between 11 and 13, you can say. And this set of the onset of the puberty is called as the menarche. And around 48 to 50 years of age, now what will happen, there will be an cease, that is in the menstrual cycle, and that stage is called as the menopause. That is, the menstrual cycle stops at that period, and it is called as the menopause stage. And if you see the reproductive period, the menstrual cycle takes place normally in 28 days, with an little variations, not a very drastic variations, and it consists of 4 stages. Now here you can see in the tabular column, that is the first, if you see, it is the menstrual phase, which is called as the destructive phase, you can say. The other one is the follicular phase, the proliferative stage, and the next one is the ovulatory phase, and the next is the secretory phase, or the luteal phase. Now if you see the changes that takes place in the ovary as well as in the uterus, it is due to the hormonal changes that take place. And here also gives the in which these phases takes place. And if you see the menstrual phase, it is between the 4 to 5 days. The development of the primary follicles takes place. And what will happen, the lining of the uterine takes place, and this leads to bleeding, and this is due to the decrease in the proestrogen or the estrogens that is secreted by the reproductive organ. Next is the follicular phase. It starts from the 6th day to 13th day, and this primary follicles grows, and it grows into a fully mature Graafican follicles, which is said, isn't it? And this is due to the increase in the estrogen secretion. And next is the ovulatory. This Graafican follicles ruptures, and you can see an ovum that is coming of egg coming out of it. And this is because the luteinizing hormones, it will be in a very peak right? The secretion will be in a peak. So this stage occurs. The next is the luteal phase, and this is the liquid that is present, we said, isn't it, in the Graafian follicles. This develops into an corpus luteum, in the sense all the liquids that is present in the Graafian follicles escapes, and you get the outermost layer that comes together and forms in solid mass, and this becomes only when the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormones completely decrease. Now if you see the fertilization process, now it takes place inside the body, that is internal, actually you can say, fertilization, and it takes place usually in the umbilical of the fallopian tube. And what happens is that the oocyte is alive for about 24 hours after it is released from the follicle. So fertilization has to take place within this 24 hours. So when the sperm enters into the ovum, it fuses and it forms in zygote. So this process is called as fertilization, and the zygote that is formed is called as the fertilized egg or the fertilized ovum, you can say. The first stage is the cleavation and the formation of the blastula, which takes place in about 30 hours after fertilization. And you have a series of the mitotic division that takes place of the zygote, and that results in blastula. It is called as blastocytes, which comprises of the outer layer of smaller cells, and inside you have an inner mass where it consists of a large cells. The first one is the implantation. Now what will happen, this blastocytes gets implanted. Now here you can see the blastocytes, isn't it? Now this gets implanted in the uterus, or you can say it gets attached to the uterus, and the process of attachment of this blastocytes in the uterine wall, that is called as endometrium. This inner wall of the uterus is called as endometrium, and this process is called as implantation. And this fertilized egg becomes implanted in about 6 to 7 days after fertilization. After it gets fertilization, after 6 to 7 days, it gets implanted in the, or it gets attached to the ovaries. The next one is the gastrulation period. Gastrulation period is nothing but the transfer of this blastula into a glastula. Glastula, that is nothing but the formation of the primary germ cell, that is the skin that forms, isn't it? So layers, isn't it? Ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. So this takes place, that is the formation of the germ cell takes place. This is formed by the rearrangement of the cells. So the rearrangement of the cells to form the ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm is called as the gastrulation period. So once the implantation takes place, now after the implantation, the next step is the formation of the germ cells, that is the ectoderm, endoderm, and the mesoderm. Now the next one, the next process is the organogenesis. Organogenesis in the sense formation of the organs. So once this germ layers, that is the ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm is formed, now it will initiate the first process, that is the development of the various organs of the fetus will take place. The next one is the formation of placenta. Now this is very, very important. Now the placenta will be an disc shaped structure. It will be in the form of a disc, right, and that will get attached to the uterus, and this is a temporary formation during the embryo development. Now what will happen is that this this helps in exchange of the food materials, the oxygen, and the nitrogenous waste has to be excreted, isn't it, and the carbon dioxide has to be eliminated, isn't it? So this allows the exchange of these materials in and out, and there will be a cord like structure which consists of the blood vessels, completely consists of the blood vessels that connects the placenta with the fetus, and that is called as the umbilical cord. So through which the diffusion of these material or the exchange of these materials takes place. The next one is the gestation period. So that is called as pregnancy. So the period, if you see, normally the gestation periods in human last for about 280 days. So this is the period in which the embryo attains its complete development in the uterus, And during this pregnancy, the uterus expands about 500 times than its normal size. The next one is the pasteurization period, that is the childbirth. Now pasteurization is nothing but the young ones that comes out of the mother's uterus at the end of gestation. Now there are two hormones that helps in the gestation period. The first one is oxytocin. We said that it is secreted by the posterior pituitary gland, isn't it? So this stimulates the uterine contraction, and it provides a force that will expel the baby out of the uterus, and which causes the childbirth. The next one is the gestation period, that is the formation of milk production from the mammary glands. Now the first milk that is produced from the mammary glands immediately after the childbirth is called as the colostrum, and this is very very important. Hormone that is secreted by the anterior pituitary gland stimulates the milk production from the ovules of the mammillary gland, and that secretion is nothing but the prolactin, which is from the anterior pituitary gland. The ejection of milk is also stimulated by the oxytocin, or you can say the oxytocin and the prolactin helps in the stimulation of the milk from the mammillary glands. So this is about the fertilization period. So the fertilization periods involves the formation of the blastula, implantation, gastrulation, organogenesis, formation of placenta, pregnancy, pasteurization, and lactation period. Next we'll see about the personal hygiene and the reproductive hygiene. According to the World Health Organization, reproductive health in the sense the total well-being of the reproduction, ability to reproduce, regulate fertility, humans' ability to undergo pregnancy and safe childbirth, or you can say maternal and the infant survival, and the well-being of this whole process. And if you see, there are various programs that is launched, that is the national health programs, and the first one is the family welfare programs, reproductive and the healthcare, that is RCH programs. Now if you see the family wealth program, and this consists of the maternal and the child health care, and immunization of the mother and the infant, that is immunity, that is immunization vaccines are given, isn't it? And nutrition supplement to the pregnant women is given, and contraception with health education that is being granted to the people. And if you see the reproductive and the child health care, pregnancy and the childbirth, regarding the care about the mother and the child that takes place due to the urinary infection. So all these are explained and it is propagated. Now we'll talk about the urinary infection, that is UTI. Now if you talk about the urinary infection, any infection or the bacteria that is present in the skin or the vagina will enter into the urethra, and this will lead to the infection. The first one is the bladder infections. In bladder infections, the bacteria gets attached itself into the urinary bladder, and it will multiply and it will lead to the inflammations. And normally it is between the age 20 to 50. Next is the kidney infection. The bacteria will travel from the urinary bladder into the uter, and it will affect one or both the kidneys, you can say, and it also infects the blood. So this will be a very serious problems, and it will lead to many complications. The next one is the asymptomatic bacteria. The bacteria that is present in the urinary bladder may not show any symptoms. That is called as asymptomatic. It will not show any symptoms, and this is again an life-threatening complications. Now if you see personal hygiene, body hygiene is very very important, isn't it? So a daily regular bath is very very essential, and it keeps the skin clean and free from the germs, isn't it? And hair should also be clean by frequent wash. So mouthwash should be done after every meal, so you wash your hands before and after every meal. So these are the personal hygiene, you can say. And if you see the towel that we use, handkerchiefs, the undergarments, socks, everything should be washed and kept clean, isn't it? So washing prevents the infection and all. This is the toilet hygiene. So the floors of the toilet should be maintained dry and clean, so that it do not develop any odor or the infections. So the flush, the knobs, the towel, the paper towels that we use, so all these may contain harmful germs and bacteria, so this should be cleaned with the disinfectants. And washing hands before and after toilet is also very important. So personal hygiene is very important, children. So see to that you maintain your personal hygiene and keep yourself clean. If you see hygiene, it's nothing but an healthy living, practice of healthy living, and personal cleanliness, right? That is taking care of one's own body and health, isn't it? So that is very important. About the end of the lesson. So we have come to the end of the lesson. So this lesson consists of the reproduction in plants and reproduction in animals. Now if you see the reproduction in plants, we have learnt about the vegetative reproduction, that is various type of vegetative reproduction. Then we saw about the structure of a flower, how the fertilization takes place in plants, and the fertilization that takes place in the human. So before that we saw the male reproductive structure and female reproductive structure and the process of the fertilization, isn't it? So and we also talked about the personal hygiene, reproductive hygiene, and the toilet hygiene. Now your homework for today is that on page number 258 you can find these two long answers, that is the structure of the ovule. You draw the diagram of the structure of the ovule and explain about the structure of the ovule, and for that you can refer page number 246. The second question is that what are the phases of menstrual cycle, indicate the changes in the ovary and the uterus. Now we saw in tabular column, that is events of the menstrual cycle and the role of hormones, isn't it? And the answer for this is on page number 251. Now you have a tabular column where the changes in the uterus and the ovary and the hormonal changes are given in the form of a tabular column. So you can copy this tabular column, and for the first question you have to draw the diagram. Draw the diagram neatly, complete your classwork, and submit your classwork in the school office on Friday. We'll meet you in the next session, children. Thank you.